going to make a request to this server and ask for the HTML of this website. When we get the HTML, then our browser is going to go on and render the website for us. And then we're going to see what is going on in our network tab. We're going to see the get request, and we're going to see the response, and so on and so forth. So let me click enter. So you can see it start to make a get request. Hey guys, I'm a back-end developer working with Django, and I create so many applications. That's why I said let me come to YouTube and share my experience. So in my journey of teaching you guys to be a back-end developer just like me, and I just said let me start with the first and the most important thing for you to know, which is HTTP. So what is HTTP and how HTTP works? This is what we are going to discuss in this video, and I'm going to share the roadmap that I'm going to follow step by step to teach you all the concepts that you need to know for you to become a back-end developer. You can be able to create an application and deploy the application to the internet for users to work, and how to scale the application to a thousands and multiple of users, and how to create a SaaS application. So subscribe to this channel. This is what you are interested in and what you wanted to learn. So in this video, like I said, we're going to discuss about HTTP protocol. So first of all, what is HTTP protocol? So HTTP protocol is a protocol that used between two computers to communicate in internet and share HTML resources. Or I say yes, HTML resources and some other media files, for example, like image, uh, yes, image, PDF, and so on. So all these media files, HTTP protocol can transfer them between each other. So before we dive in, let me give you an example. Which kind of protocol are we using between me and other person? When I pick up my phone and dial his number and I call him, which type of protocol are we using? So I want you to give me the answer in the comment section below. So but the question here, the differences here is the protocol that we people use in our smartphone to dial is someone phone number and call him. When he pick up, now we can communicate. I can speak, he can hear what I'm saying, he can speak, and also I can hear what he is saying. So that protocol is a different protocol from HTTP protocol. The way the other protocol works in our smartphone is the protocol works like this. When you dial the person phone number and you call him, then the call will be broadcasted, and then the right person will receive the call. So when it receives the call will his phone will start ringing, alerting him that someone wants to talk to you. Then when he accepts the call, then you initiate the connection, which is so. This is how the protocol works. The first of all, you make a request of saying, okay, I want to talk to you. And then the person, if he accepts the request, then you will get a response of acceptance. Then the next thing that's going to happen is going to initiate a two-way communication. You can speak, you can speak, he can speak. That's the protocol that we are using our smartphone to communicate uh, through cell phone. So what happened? We don't know the name of that protocol, but what about HTTP protocol? So this is how HTTP protocol works. You have a computer here, computer 1, and then you have another computer here, which is called computer 2. So this computer 1 will make a request to this computer 2, telling this computer 2, okay, I want so file. Maybe he wants some physics textbook in PDF. Maybe he wants a chemistry textbook in PDF. So he will make a request requesting what? Chemistry textbook in PDF. And then this computer 2 will say, okay, so you want me to send you a chemistry textbook in PDF. Then this computer will now check his document, his files, and now find that chemistry textbook and then give it back to the computer 1 as a what? As a response. So how do they communicate? The protocol that they use to communicate is called what? HTTP protocol. And then this protocol, it works on the internet, and this is how HTTP protocol works. First of all, in the protocol we have two things for you to know. The first thing is what? It's called request, and the second thing is response. So before you initiate the communication between you and the second computer, you must make a request first, and then the second computer will give you a response. So based on our protocol that we are using, a smartphone, when the user accepts our request, we're going to have a full two-way communication, and it's not going to end until we finish our discussion or our recharge card has finished. But in HTTP protocol, is a stateless. When we mean a stateless, every request is independent. That means if I make a first request requesting for chemistry textbook, and this computer find the chemistry textbook and give it to me as a response, that's all. The finished communication is like when this computer make a call, then receive the call, then give it back the response. Now they finish the communication. That's it, they're done. And then if this computer want another resources, for example, like a physics textbook, PDF, then he will make another request to the computer too. And then the computer too, he doesn't care about, okay, is it the first person that called me? No, he doesn't care. That's why we call it stateless. So he will just look for the next textbook and then give it back. But if it is in our through communication, our smartphone, when we initiate the communication, we're not going to end the call until we finish our discussion. But this one, in every chemistry textbook or any PDF that you want, you will make another request. It's just like you make every time you want to say hello, you will call the person, he accept the call, and you say hello, then the call end. If you want him to give you, sorry, when you initiate the call, then you say hello and he say hi, then the call now end. If you want to say another word, you have to call him again. When you call him again, he pick up, you speak, he answer, then the call end. So this is how HTTP protocol work between two computers. When the first computer make a request for some resources, the resources can be HTML file, can be an image, can be video, can be PDF. When the computer 2 give it back the response to the computer 1, that's it, the communication has ended. For you to request for another thing, you have to initiate another connection, which is another request, that's why we call it stateless. So I hope you understand the basic concept of how HTTP works. And what is HTTP? It's a protocol that two computers use to communicate and share resources between each other. So this computer 2, we usually call it a server, and the computer 1, we call it a client. Why do we call this computer 2 a server, and why did we call this a client? The client is the one that is looking for the resources. For example, why did we call you a student? Yes, because you are a student, you want to learn. You don't know anything, you are here to learn. So why did you call him a teacher? Because he knows something and he's going to teach you something. So it's the same thing here. The client is the one looking for the resources, while the server is the computer giving out the resources, handing you the resources and say, okay, this is what you want. And this server, they are almost everywhere in the internet. There are thousands of servers, billions of servers serving different kind of resources. So maybe this server is a YouTube server, for example. So if it is a YouTube server, what kind of resources are you going to look in a YouTube? Do you look for a PDF? No. Do you look for a images? No. It is not a Facebook. It is not a PDF drive. What are you going to be looking is videos for you to watch. So that means the YouTube server can only serve what is going to only serve videos. So what kind of resources are you going to be looking for in YouTube? You're going to looking for videos. So if you're going to make a request, maybe you will make a request of saying, okay, and tutorial of HTML, then you send a request, then the YouTube server will now look for the YouTube tutorial and it will give you back the response. So how did you going to give you back the response? It will not just send you the video, but rather it's going to give you a home page that is designed using HTML and CSS and JavaScript. When they give you that home page, your computer will receive those HTML file and CSS and JavaScript and then render it in your computer. When it render it, then the video will now come. Then the YouTube server will now send the video to you. When YouTube server send the video to you, then now the video is going to be shown in some part of that HTML file so that you can see it in that right angle script. So when you double click or maybe whatever you do, then you open it very wide. So this is how HTTP protocol works. So what kind of request can you make in a HTTP protocol? So remember, client is one making the request, while server is the computer serving the response, which is giving the response. So usually this one is only a request. It's only making a what? It's only making a request, while this one is making what? A response. Does YouTube ever send you a request to your phone asking you to watch and go and watch this video? No, they will never do that. They can't even do that. They will never make a request from server to a client asking him to do something or looking for a resources. No. So that's the basic fundamental. The client is the one initiating the request while the server is the one giving out the response. When they make the request, then generate the response, give it back to the client, and the connection is done. That's what we call stateless. Stateless. That's why HTTP is called stateless. So these are the types of requests we can make in using HTTP. You can make a GET request. When you want to get something to this server, so you make a request, and in the request you set get. When you write this get, then you write whatever you want. For example, you want a chemistry textbook, then you write get chemistry textbook.pdf, chemistry textbook.pdf. When this server receives this, it will check, okay, which kind of request is that. Then the server will see, okay, this is a get request. So when the server receives, okay, is a get request, then it will regenerate, it will find that chemistry textbook and give it and send it back to you. So when you make a get request, that means you need something from the server. So what about the post request? Well, post request, maybe you want to save your journal, or maybe you're not, that you write in a MS Word. So you said, okay, whatever your note is, then you make a post request. When you make a post request, it's like you are taking your PDF file and you send it to the server. When you send it to the server, then the server will store that PDF file so that other user can see it and also can work with it. So post request is for sending information to the server, while get request is for getting information to the server. What about put? So like I said, you already put your PDF, your note, to the server, and now you want to edit something. So you will now edit it in the front end, and you again make a put request to the server telling you, okay, I already have so kind of file inside your memory, so I want you to update it now to be like this. Then you make a put request. So a put request is like asking the server, okay, update this file. You are not asking the server to give you the file, and you are not asking the server to save the file, but you are asking the server to edit the file. This is another type of request you can make. And then we have delete request, which is this is self-explanatory. Delete request, which is just telling the server, okay, delete so kind of resources. Then the server will delete the resources that you are asking. So in every HTTP request, there must be a method and then the path of that method to be executed. We're going to show you when we go back to our computer and start writing the code. We're going to use Python for the demonstration and example. So we see these are the kind of requests we can make to a server. So what kind of response are we going to get from a server? So these are the response we can get from a server. We can get a success response, which is in a range of 200, from 200 to 299, 299. All what you're going to get is going to be a success. That means it has been done, or it has been done and whatsoever. The information must be a success. Then 300 is all about redirection. Maybe, okay, you make a request to the server and asking the server for resources, and then the server will say, okay, I don't have these resources inside me, but I will redirect you to one of my colleague, another server, so that you can get the request. So when you receive a response of 300, the server is telling you, okay, I redirect you to another server. and then 400 means, that means you are the client, the person that making the request is making a bad request. Maybe the request is not good, maybe you are not authenticated for that request, maybe when you about to make the request there is some error occur. So the server will tell you, okay, you have a problem with your request. So whenever the server responds with 400, it's telling you that you make a bad request, which is the problem is from you, client. Then 500, that's the problem from the server. Whenever we get a response from the server and we see 500, then the server is telling us that, okay, I have a problem. Maybe the server has shut down, maybe they lose internet connection or whatsoever. So we're going to get a 500 response. So in every request, there must be a response. If you make a get request, you will get one of those response, 200, 300, or 400, or 500. If you make a post request, you will get one of those response. If you made a push, you will get one of these response. You made a delete, get one of these response. So how do you make this request? Well, every day you usually make this request when you use your phone, when you open a Facebook, behind the scenes Facebook application that you are opening in your phone, it will make a request to a Facebook server for the information that is going to render in front of your application in your Scream application. If you open your laptop and you go to your browser and you type your website name and you click enter, you made a request telling the server, okay, I need this kind of website HTML file of this website and I want it to render in my screen. So like I said, we're going to demonstrate an example using Python programming, using a module called request. So we're going to go to the computer right now and see an example. So as you can see, we are going to demonstrate an example of making a HTTP request. So this is my browser. Let me launch it. And I'm going to open my network tab so that we can see what is going on. So now I am in my network tab. You can see it here, network. So I'm going to write in a URL where I set a domain name of your website. When I write this is the domain name of the website, we're going to make a request to this website. So we want to see the homepage of this website. So we already know that a homepage of any website or any website is being developed using HTML, which is markup language. So if you have the HTML of your website, you can open it in a browser and you can render the website and you can see. So since we don't have the HTML code of this website, we're going to make a request to this server and ask for the HTML of this website. When we get the HTML, then our browser is going to go on and render the website for us. And then we're going to see what is going on in our network tab. We're going to see the get request and we're going to see the response and so on and so forth. So let me click enter. So you can see it start to make a get request. These are all the requests that we made to the website. We make the request for the images, CSS file, JavaScript file, you see. So, and this is the response we get from the server. We see we have a 200, which is 200 means okay. It's like you asking give me this file, and then the person say okay, here it is. So it's the same thing here. We make a request to this server. This is the name of our server, and then the server will respond with okay, here are the resources. So now I hope you understand how this request and response cycle works. And if by clicking one of these requests that we are seeing right now, you see this is the document, this is the HTML file. After we get all of this after we get all the static file, JavaScript file, CSS file, then at the end we get what HTML file. So if we look it further, as you can see here, we have something what we call header. So in every request, we have something what they call header, a request header. So the request header contain the information telling the server, okay, these are the resources I am looking for. I am from so place, whatever and whatsoever. So in this request header, you see, it contains the request method, which is telling the server, okay, I want to get this request. So which type of protocol is a HTTP? I want to get these resources. Which are the resources and from who? I want the resources from this server. These are the URL which is telling the server, okay, this server, you give me, which is get me the resources. So then the server will go on and respond with an index.html. when it when it responds, this is what we're going to see in the response header. You see, this is the request header, and this is the response header. So if we look at the request header, let's see where it is. This is the request, sorry, where it is. Okay, here it is. So this is the request header telling, this is the information that contain all what is going to explain to the server. You see, it's telling the server the browser that I'm using is Mozilla, Firefox, and whatsoever. I'm using Linux. It's also telling him the information about my computer, and then the host, which is where who what's the name of the server, or like this host is like the phone number of the server that we want to contact. So we put it, and then we have the connection and whatsoever. All these are the request header, which is the information that will contain and send it to the server. And then when the server receive those information, then we'll go on and process our request and give us this response header. Set the connection alive, which is they have a connection, and then they start telling, okay, you're going to contain an encoding, so ever content type is a HTML. This is the date that I'm giving you the reference and whatsoever. So these are the response that we're going to get, and also we're going to see this is also under the response telling us, okay, the response is being succeeded, which is here are the resources you are looking for, and then the HTTP, the version of the HTTP we are using HTTP 1.1. The DNS resolution is being done through my system, not from a DNS server. We will come to that next tutorial. So now we are going to go and create a Python program that will send request. Here we make the request in a browser by writing it the name of the server we are going to make a request, and then when we click enter, it will automatically make a get request. So now, as you can see, I am going to create a program in Python that will create a get request, just the same thing that we did in a browser, but this one we're writing a program. So that I want to show you something, that the HTML file and the JavaScript file is being sent from the server to your computer, and your computer will go on and render the HTML file just like you are working with it locally in your computer. But when the server give you the response, now you're done with the communication with the server, and then your computer will go on and render all of those information that it gets from the server. So now, before we create this program, first of all, you have to pull up your terminal and run this command after you initiate your virtual environment, and then you run pip install request. So I already installed it. It's going to show me this so stop being satisfied. So now let me close this, and I'm going to run this program. So let me explain how this code works. This is the URL of the server, which is like the phone number we are going to contact for the resources. And by default, we did not tell the server, okay, these are the resources we are looking for. Since we just call the server will automatically respond with a HTML file. And which kind of HTML file is a index.html file. So this is the server we are going to contact, and then we save the contact information of the server in a variable called URL, and then here I create another variable called response, and I call this module called request, and here inside the request module I have a function called get. Then we set a request.get. We're going to make a get request, and then we pass the contact information of the server. Then we said, okay, just for around 10 seconds, if we not get the response, there's an error and whatsoever. And then here are the response. We're going to raise an arrow if we make a bad request. For example, raise an arrow for bad response. I mean, maybe it is a 400, then we'll raise an arrow. If it's a 500, we'll raise an arrow. But if we get a 300 or 200, we will not raise any arrow. This line of code, this is what he is doing. And then after we get our response, then we go on and print it. We print the status code, which is, like I said, the status code is the response we get from the server. If we have a 200 status code, that means we succeed for making the request, and now we succeed for having the response. And if we have 300, that means we will redirect, and so on and so forth. And then we print the response header, which is the response header that we get from the server. We set the response dot header, which is this is going to return a complete HTTP response object. So then we call it and call this attribute status code and header, and we just print it out. And also we get the text of the response, which is like the HTML file. So if we run this program, see, now it's taking a little longer before we get the response. Let me open it wide. See, up to now we did not get any response, so let's wait for it a little bit. Okay, we having an error, HTTP connection pool. Okay, so we have an error, we do not get the response. But let me rerun the code again. So now, as you can see here, this is the response we get. You say the status code is 200, and then the response header, these are the response header, somehow similar to what we saw in the browser, but this one contains almost much more information. They are all the same thing. And then these are the content, which is the post 500 characters. So like I told you, the content is a HTML file. You see, the server is sending a HTML file, or as HTML code. So when our browser receives this code, it will go on and start rendering it. So now we just print the first 500 character of that HTML file using this Python program. So as you can see here, I said the first 500 characters I want to print out. So this is how a request and response work in a browser. So whenever you create a website, you go on and store the information, store the HTML file, JavaScript file in a server, and that server you're going to make it to be a public, which is, we call it deployment. So when you deploy it, you do what we call a domain. You buy a domain name. That domain name, it will translate your IP address of that server to what we call a to what we call a domain name. And that domain name, whenever you make a request to the domain name, and then the domain name, it will translate to IP address of your server, and then the server will receive the request. Then the server will generate an appropriate response and send it back to the client using its IP address. The server will look at, okay, this is the IP address that make this request. Okay, let me send the response back to the same IP address. So this is how HTTP protocol works. There is another thing you have to know. HTTP protocol, it doesn't encrypt your information when it's sent it through internet. It go on openly. So you have to use HTTPS, which is HTTP protocol secure, that will secure your information. So I will show you the problem of that in our next video. When we send a HTTP request openly, we're going to try to dissect the request and see what is the request content, and we're going to also dissect HTTPS and see the differences. So see you in our next video.